Hey guys, Troll9002 here. I finally got a little bit of the balance between the ring and my computer. It's right here in the middle where you can see my eyes. Isn't that great? I'd like to get right to it today. The story is called Snow Shovel Escape. Karen's story was the inspiration for it. Thank you very much, Karen. All the credit for the title and the idea goes to Karen's story. So here we go, Snow Shovel Escape. So for all those who are used to dealing with the snow, you have a toolkit of things you need to have handy to fight the snow. I myself have never experienced real snow. I'm not trying to rub it in, I just never have. Sure, I've had the occasional snow cone or an icy drink, but not like y'all up north experience. This story is about a snow shovel that got tired of the snow and decided to flee from the state that produced too much snow in too little time. The state is Kentucky. The shovel belongs to a friend named Karen. It was a rather unique snow shovel. It had her name on it and the address, so if ever it got lost, whomever found it could return it. Also, if they ever borrowed it, they could remember who to return it to. This was a special snow shovel because it belonged to the Queen of the Snow. The myth is said that when there was a specific winter noise or vibration that nobody knew what it was, the shovel would return home, because that would be the signal, and the snow was melting, and it was safe to return without being used. This snow had come as a surprise. I am not sure anyone was ready for the massive amounts that just found a place to lay in the month of January and starting in February. There were a lot of masses that left the state to avoid it and head to warmer climates, but the brave and the smart and the snow shovel wielders are the only ones that stayed, because home is where the heart is, and where the comfort is, too. It had been a nice kind of warm winter for the Kentucky people until the new year. That is when Mother Nature decided to just pile it on. The snow was great till it wasn't. The kids didn't like it because it wasn't the kind to build a snowman with. The grown-ups having to dig out every day with their shovels, and the grandparents and the elderly had to hope that some good Samaritan, I know of a few, would dig them out, not because they couldn't, but because this was the kind of new snow that was too heavy for the older models of snow shovels. But for some reason, Karen's snow shovel, though it was old, was able to handle any and everything. But we know that it was the Queen's snow shovel. One day, Karen's neighbor got so tired and annoyed at the snow that he took a flamethrower to his driveway and to all the snow around him in his yard, which happened to wash over Karen's yard, which unfortunately somehow swept the snow shovel out onto the road. Unbeknown to Karen that it was out in the road, and a plow went by, and it got swept up in the snow plow and taken away. No one could ever tell me how the shovel got shipped to Florida, but somehow that snow shovel got shipped to Florida, where it laid on top of a trash pile in the sun in an abandoned lot. The shovel, unaware of what was going on, was just happy to be in the sun, that there was no snow around it. But after a good long while of laying in the sun, the shovel started to shrivel up a little because there was no moisture from the snow to keep it from shriveling up. As the people of Kentucky started to celebrate and dig out from the snow that was no longer falling, and the sun finally made it there, Karen had been scrambling to try and find a new snow shovel. She thought someone had stolen hers, which broke her heart, but she had to act quick to get the snow away. And so, with great reluctance, Karen ended up trying to buy a new snow shovel. But seeing as how half of the eastern section of the states was under snow, shovels were hard to find. There was a trash digger named Ed, who liked to roam around the dump sites in Florida and the landfills too, just collecting things to use in his upcycle projects, and so much more. Ed was a die-hard upcycler who knew it was possible to get people on the bandwagon to clean up, so he figured he'd just do what he could, and that was that. It was a balmy 73 degrees in Florida, and Ed was out as usual looking for things to complete his project or start a new one. When a flash of light caught his eye, he figured it was some crappy piece of metal. Ed was a guy who didn't live dangerously. His family loved him, but he was the black sheep of the family. so they didn't bother with him. But Ed, who had moved to Florida from Kentucky ironically, he couldn't be happier that he never had to deal with snow. Since the big move, plus, he moved closer to his family. Now the shovel was losing hope in ever getting back home, as it was so close to shriveling up and breaking. When he got to it, Ed snatched it up because it was a good snow shovel. And at this time of the year with the shortage of shovels, he could make a bundle on this. All you have to do is put it up on eBay and let the bidding war begin. Then he saw the address on the handle, and Ed had too much of a conscience not to try to contact the former owner. Ed had left the snow shovel outside his house because it had an odor to it due to sitting in the sun on the trash pile. Leaning up against the house as Ed was Googling the address, the snow shovel felt vibrations calling him home. And it couldn't have been a better time because there was a monsoon, typical Florida thunderstorm coming, and the wind blew and knocked the shovel to the ground. Then the monsoon of rain washed it out to the road once again, only not snow this time, but it was also trash day. So after the deluge of rain, the garbage trucks continued to pick up trash, but Ed, being aware of what happened, ran out to save the shovel, and once he finished Googling, he had a name and a phone number. So Ed called the number from the internet, and Karen answered the phone against her better judgment, and Ed told her about finding the shovel, and Karen couldn't believe it. Then she figured that he would want $1 million or some kind of extortionist move to get it back to her, but Ed offered to drive it back to Kentucky, as it had been a while since he had been to the place where he grew up, and the snow was starting to melt anyway. So he drove it back home. When he arrived to meet with Karen, they both heard strange noises coming from a field nearby the house. The noise was odd, and they just kind of blew it off. So Ed gave Karen the shovel back in perfect condition, and Karen told him the story behind it. I was fascinated and felt the need to research it, but the story being a myth, it was going to be mostly word of mouth, so we'll just leave it at what Ed could find. The handle was made of an old gnarled piece of wood from a tree of magic and snow. It was said that the queen ordered the tree to be moved closer to the kingdom so she could enjoy it, but through her own selfishness, all the people of her kingdom had snow dumped all over them because the tree was a magical tree, but was also a snow tree. Not knowing its full potential, the power of the snow froze the kingdom as it was. But later on, settlers and people knocked down the castle in Kentucky and built around the kingdom, built right over top of it. Sure, you can visit today, but you'd have to dig real deep into the ground to find it. Still to this day, no one has ever found anything left of the myth, including people who used to know the story by word of mouth, as they were all passing away from the snow. Just like the townspeople, the cold was finally getting to them, and they were giving up. The snow shovel was meant to be the light that would bring people the hope that the snow would be cleared soon. And because Karen had put her name and address on the handle of it, somehow the ink from the Sharpie killed the light of the shovel. But the sound and the vibration could never be killed. And as Ed and Karen talked and walked, they heard the noises again. Couldn't figure out what it was, but the shovel knew it was home and safe, and was ready to get back to work. A few days later, even though the snow had stopped falling, it was still piled up everywhere, including Karen's driveway. So Ed did her a favor and shoveled everything before he left to go back home. I hate it when those shovels make an escape, but I love it when they find their way home. Thank goodness for people who are willing to research and return found stuff to its rightful owner. Well, that will do it for this one. I hope I have a great surprise. If you want to know what the sound and vibration is for the snow shovel to know to come home, check out my friend's YouTube page, Tales of Techno Hillbilly. His video called Ice Falling from Cell Tower. I will include the link in the description. It really is neat if you listen to the sounds that are being made. It's quite fascinating. This is Troll 9002 signing off for another night. Hope to catch you on the next page turn for sure. Have a great week. Hope the snow melts soon. Bye, y'all.